I'm going to tell you something that might save your independence. Something I learned not from a doctor or a book, but from watching what happened to people around me. From seeing who ended up in nursing homes and who didn't. From paying attention to the one difference that mattered more than anything else. 3 years ago, I went to visit my old friend Carl in a nursing home. Carl was 74, sharp as a tack mentally, no major health problems, but he'd had a minor fall, bruised his hip, and his daughter panicked. Within 2 months, he was in a facility. I sat with him in that sterile room with the fluorescent lights and the smell of disinfectant, and he looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "Jim, I don't know how this happened. One day I was living in my own house, and now I'm here, and I don't think I'm ever getting out." That visit shook me to my core, because I looked at Carl and realized there was nothing physically wrong with him that should have put him there. He could walk, he could think, he could take care of himself, but somehow he'd ended up in the one place every person our age dreads, and I became obsessed with understanding why. Why do some people maintain their independence into their 80s and 90s, while others end up in facilities in their early 70s? What's the difference? After 3 years of observation, of talking to doctors and nurses, of watching my peers, I've discovered the answer. And it's not what you think. It's not about your health, though that matters. It's not about your money, though that helps. It's about one single habit that most people our age are getting wrong. And if you can get this one thing right, you drastically increase your odds of staying independent for the rest of your life. Here's what I think most of us get wrong about nursing homes. We think they're for people who are sick or disabled, people who have no choice. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes someone has a stroke or develops dementia, and they genuinely need that level of care. But that's not most people in nursing homes. Most people in nursing homes are there for a different reason entirely, and understanding this reason is the key to avoiding it yourself. The number one reason people our age end up in facilities isn't because of a health crisis. It's because they can't take care of themselves at home anymore. Not because they're physically unable, but because they've lost the ability to function independently in all the small daily ways that matter. They can't manage their medications. They can't cook their meals. They can't clean their house. They can't handle their finances. And when you lose the ability to do these things, your family panics. Your doctor suggests more support, and suddenly you're being moved into a place you never wanted to go. But here's the thing I discovered. The people who lose these abilities don't lose them because they got old. They lose them because they stopped doing them. And they stopped doing them because of one habit, one pattern that sneaks up slowly until it's stolen everything from you. I see this habit everywhere I look. I see it in people younger than me who are already heading down the path toward dependence. I see it in friends my age who don't even realize they're in danger. And I'm going to tell you what it is, but more importantly, I'm going to tell you how to fight it, because this is a battle you can win if you understand what you're up against. The one habit that will save you from nursing homes is this: keep moving through the world like it still needs you. Not just physical movement, though that's part of it. I'm talking about staying engaged with life in a way that requires you to do things, to go places, to interact with the world, to have reasons to get up and get dressed and leave your house. The minute you stop doing this, the minute you retreat into passivity and isolation, you begin the slide toward dependence. And once that slide starts, it's very hard to stop. Let me explain what I mean by telling you about 2 men I knew. Both were 72 when they retired. Both were in decent health, no major issues. Both lived alone after their wives passed. Their names were Frank and Robert, and I watched their lives unfold in completely opposite directions. Frank retired, and decided he'd earned the right to relax. He'd worked hard for 45 years, and now he was going to take it easy. He stopped going to the community center where he used to volunteer. He quit the bowling league because his knees hurt, and it was too much effort. He started getting his groceries delivered instead of going to the store. He let his garden go because bending over was uncomfortable. Within a year, his entire life was contained within his house. He woke up, watched TV, ate meals, and went to bed. That was it. Robert also retired, but he did something different. He started volunteering at the elementary school, helping kids with reading 3 days a week. He joined a men's group at church that met for breakfast every Thursday. He committed to walking to the post office every day to get his mail, even though he could have gotten a mailbox at the curb. He kept cooking his own meals, even though it would have been easier to eat frozen dinners. He made himself stay engaged with the world in small but consistent ways. 5 years later, Frank fell in his house and couldn't get up. His muscles had atrophied from lack of use. His balance was shot because he never went anywhere. His mind had dulled from lack of stimulation. He ended up in a nursing home at 77, and he died there 2 years later. Robert, on the other hand, is still living independently at 83. He's slowed down, sure, but he's still driving, still volunteering, still showing up to breakfast on Thursdays. Still engaged with life in a way that requires him to function. That's the difference. That's what I'm talking about. Frank retreated from the world, and the world forgot about him. His body forgot how to move. His mind forgot how to engage. His daily life required nothing of him, so he became someone who couldn't do anything. Robert kept making the world need him, in small ways, and his body and mind rose to meet those needs. Now let me break down why this one habit, staying engaged with the world, is so powerful at preventing the decline that leads to nursing homes. First, it keeps you physically active without feeling like exercise. This is huge. Most people our age hate the idea of working out. It feels like a chore, like something you should do but don't want to. But when you have places to go and things to do, you move your body naturally. Walking to the store, gardening, volunteering somewhere that requires you to be on your feet, playing with grandkids. These activities don't feel like exercise, but they're keeping your muscles strong, your balance intact, your flexibility maintained. I know a woman named Betty who's 79 and still lives alone in a 2-story house. Everyone tells her she should move to a single-level place or a facility. But Betty has a routine. Every morning, she goes upstairs to her craft room where she makes quilts for the church bazaar. Every afternoon, she goes down to her basement where she does laundry. She's climbing those stairs 4 or 5 times a day, and that's what's keeping her mobile. She's not doing it for exercise. She's doing it because her life requires it. But the effect is the same. Compare that to people who arrange their entire lives for convenience. Everything on one floor, groceries delivered, no reason to leave the house. They think they're making life easier, but they're actually guaranteeing their decline. Your body adapts to what you ask of it. If you ask nothing, it gives you nothing. Second, staying engaged keeps your mind sharp. When you have to navigate the world, you're constantly solving problems. How do I get to this appointment? What do I need from the store? What time is the bus? When's my volunteer shift? These seem like small mental tasks, but they're exercise for your brain. They keep you oriented to time and place. They keep you planning and organizing and remembering. I watched my aunt slip into dementia, and looking back, I can see it started when she stopped going anywhere. She stopped driving after a minor fender bender and never went anywhere that required navigation. She stopped managing her own calendar when she retired. She stopped cooking when her kids started bringing her meals. Gradually, she had no reason to track time, to remember things, to make decisions, and her mind atrophied just like a muscle would. Now, I'm not saying staying engaged prevents Alzheimer's or medical dementia. I'm saying a lot of what we call cognitive decline in elderly people is actually just mental laziness from lack of stimulation. And families and doctors see this decline and immediately start talking about care needs and facilities, when what the person really needs is reasons to use their brain again. Third, and this is critical, staying engaged gives you social connections that notice when something's wrong. This is your safety net. When you're regularly showing up places, when people expect to see you, when you're part of a community, someone notices if you're not okay. Someone sees if you're losing weight or looking confused or having trouble with something. And they can help you address small problems before they become big ones. Carl, my friend in the nursing home, had isolated himself for 2 years before his fall. He didn't go anywhere. He didn't talk to neighbors. He'd alienated his friends by always saying no to invitations. So when he fell, he lay on his floor for 18 hours before someone found him. If he'd been going to the senior center regularly, someone would have noticed he didn't show up and checked on him. If he'd had weekly breakfast with friends, they would have called when he missed it. But he had no safety net because he'd retreated from the world. Compare that to a woman I know named Grace. Grace is 81 and lives alone. But she's part of a card game group that meets every Tuesday, a Bible study on Thursdays, and she volunteers at the food bank on Saturdays. Last year, the ladies at Bible study noticed she seemed confused and was mixing up her words. They gently suggested she see a doctor. Turned out she had a medication interaction that was easily fixed. But if she'd been isolated at home, that confusion would have gotten worse until she had a crisis, and that crisis would have been the ticket to a nursing home. Your social connections aren't just for companionship, though that matters too. They're your early warning system. They're the people who catch problems while they're still fixable. But you only get this safety net if you're regularly showing up to places where people expect to see you. Fourth, staying engaged gives you reasons to take care of yourself. This is more important than people realize. When you have nowhere to go and nothing to do, why bother getting dressed? Why shower every day? Why make a real meal instead of eating crackers in front of the TV? Why organize your pills properly? Why care about anything? I've seen this spiral happen over and over. Someone retires, stops going places, stops having reasons to maintain themselves. They start showering less frequently. They wear the same clothes multiple days. They eat worse. They stop managing their health properly. And this decline in self-care is often what triggers the family intervention that ends in a nursing home. The daughter comes to visit and sees dad hasn't showered in a week. There's no food in the house. He's wearing dirty clothes. His pills are scattered everywhere. And she thinks he can't take care of himself anymore. Off to the facility. But the problem wasn't that he couldn't take care of himself. The problem was he had no reason to. If that same dad had a volunteer shift on Tuesday where people were expecting him, he'd shower and get dressed and show up. If he had lunch plans with friends on Thursday, he'd make sure he looked presentable. The structure of engagement creates the motivation for self-care. I make myself have at least 3 things per week that require me to leave my house and be presentable. I volunteer at the library on Monday mornings. I have coffee with a group of guys on Wednesday afternoons. I go to church on Sundays. These aren't just social activities. They're my insurance policy against decline. They force me to maintain myself. They give me a reason to care about how I look and smell and function. Fifth, staying engaged keeps you relevant and gives you purpose. And purpose is what keeps people alive. I've seen people die within months of retirement because they lost their sense of purpose. I've seen people thrive into their 90s because they still felt needed. When you're engaged with the world in ways that require you to show up, you matter to someone. The kids at the school need you to help them read. The church needs you to usher on Sundays. Your coffee group would notice if you weren't there. You're not just taking up space, you're contributing something, even if it's small. Nursing homes are full of people who lost their sense of purpose and couldn't figure out how to get it back. They stopped being needed, stopped mattering, and their families saw them deteriorating and decided they needed care. But what they really needed was a reason to get up in the morning. I'm part of a group that visits people in nursing homes, and I can't tell you how many residents are there who are perfectly capable of living independently but have just given up. They sit in their rooms all day. They don't go to the activities offered. They don't engage with other residents. They've accepted that this is where life ends. And the tragedy is, most of them didn't have to be there. They're there because they stopped engaging with the world long before they ended up in that facility. And once the pattern is established, it's very hard to break. Now, let me address what I know some of you are thinking. But Jim, I'm tired. I worked hard my whole life. Don't I deserve to rest? Why should I force myself to do things when all I want is peace and quiet? I understand that. I really do. There are days I don't want to go to my volunteer shift. There are Wednesdays when I'd rather skip coffee and stay home in my comfortable chair. The idea of rest is seductive, especially when everything hurts a little and you're tired in a way you never were when you were young. But here's what I've learned. There's a difference between rest and retreat. Rest is healthy. Rest is taking a nap when you're tired, having a quiet evening at home, spending a Sunday in your pajamas. Rest recharges you. Retreat, on the other hand, is cutting yourself off from the world. Retreat is never going anywhere, never doing anything, never requiring anything of yourself. Retreat doesn't recharge you. It diminishes you. You can have rest while still staying engaged. You can have peace and quiet while still showing up to the commitments that keep you connected. The key is balance. You don't need to fill every day with activities. You don't need to exhaust yourself trying to stay busy. But you do need regular, consistent engagement with the world beyond your four walls. I try to follow what I call the 3 things rule. Every week, I make sure I have at least 3 things that require me to leave my house, interact with people, and be somewhat active. Some weeks I do more. Some weeks, if I'm not feeling well, I might do less. But 3 is my minimum. 3 things that keep me connected. 3 things that require me to function. 3 things that keep the world needing me in some small way. For you, it might be different. Maybe it's 2 things or 4 things. Maybe it's daily or maybe it's weekly. The specific number doesn't matter as much as the principle. You need to keep engagement as a non-negotiable part of your life, something you protect and prioritize, because it's protecting and prioritizing your independence. Now let me talk about what this looks like practically, because stay engaged with the world sounds vague. What does it actually mean? What should you actually do? It means having regular commitments outside your home, volunteer work, even just a few hours a week, a club or group that meets regularly, a class you're taking, a part-time job if you're able, religious services, exercise classes. The specific activity matters less than the regularity and the fact that it gets you out of the house and around other people. It means maintaining your ability to navigate the world independently. Keep driving as long as you safely can. If you can't drive, learn the bus system or arrange regular rides. Go to the store yourself instead of having everything delivered. Run your own errands. Handle your own appointments. The more you outsource these tasks for convenience, the faster you lose the ability to do them. It means staying responsible for your own life. Manage your own medications. Pay your own bills. Keep track of your own calendar. Cook your own meals most of the time. Clean your own house, even if you need to do it more slowly or in smaller chunks. The minute you hand these responsibilities to someone else, you begin the process of learned helplessness that ends in dependence. It means choosing difficulty over convenience sometimes. Take the stairs instead of the elevator, even if it's slower. Walk to the mailbox at the end of the street instead of getting delivery. Carry your own groceries instead of using the cart service. These small difficulties keep you capable. Convenience is seductive, but it's also the path to weakness. And it means being willing to be uncomfortable sometimes. Showing up to new groups where you don't know anyone. Trying activities that feel awkward at first. Pushing yourself to do things that would be easier to skip. Growth and maintenance both require discomfort. The minute you commit to only doing what's comfortable, you begin to shrink. I know this isn't easy. I know there are days when staying home feels so much more appealing than going out. I know your body hurts and you're tired, and the world feels overwhelming sometimes. But I also know what happens to people who give in to that feeling completely. I've watched it happen to too many friends, and I'm determined not to let it happen to me. Let me tell you one more story, because I think it illustrates this better than anything. There's a man at my church named Walter. He's 91 years old. 91. He still lives in his own house, still drives, though only during the day. Still sharp, still engaged, still showing up. I asked Walter once what his secret was, how he's maintained his independence when so many people his age are in facilities or have passed away. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, "Jim, every single day I make myself do something that would be easier not to do. Some days it's big, like going to my grandson's soccer game an hour away. Some days it's small, like walking to get my mail instead of driving. But every day I choose difficulty over ease in at least one thing. Because the day I stop choosing difficulty is the day I start dying. That's it. That's the wisdom right there. Choose difficulty over ease. Stay engaged even when it's hard. Keep making the world need you in small ways. Keep moving through life like you still have a place in it, because you do. And the minute you forget that, the minute you retreat into passivity and isolation and convenience, you're on the path to the nursing home. I think about Carl a lot, my friend in the nursing home. I think about how different his life could have been if someone had told him this 5 years ago. If he'd understood that isolation and passivity were more dangerous than any health condition. If he'd forced himself to stay engaged even when he didn't feel like it. But I also think about Robert, still living independently at 83, still mattering to people, still showing up, still choosing engagement over retreat. And I think about Walter at 91, still driving to his grandson's soccer games. These men give me hope. They show me that independence in old age isn't about luck or genetics. It's about choices. Daily choices to stay connected, to keep moving, to remain part of the world. I'm not going to lie to you and say this is easy. Some days I don't want to go to the library. Some days I think about canceling my Wednesday coffee just to have a quiet day at home. The pull toward isolation and passivity is real, especially as you get older and everything requires more effort. But I fight it. I fight it because I know what's on the other side of surrender. I've seen it too many times. And here's what I've discovered. The more I stay engaged, the easier it gets. Not physically easier, necessarily, but psychologically easier. The habits become stronger. The connections become deeper. The reasons to show up multiply. It's like you're building a structure that supports you. A web of commitments and relationships and activities that keep you tethered to life. Every person I know who's maintained their independence into their 80s and 90s has this web. And every person I know who's ended up in a facility prematurely lost this web, either because they never built it or because they let it fall apart. This is the difference. This is what matters more than your health or your money or your family situation. This is the one habit that will save you. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at your life honestly and ask yourself, am I staying engaged with the world or am I retreating from it? Do I have regular commitments that get me out of the house? Do I have social connections that would notice if something was wrong? Am I maintaining my ability to navigate the world independently? Am I choosing difficulty over convenience sometimes? If the answer to any of these is no, I want you to change one thing this week. Just one. Join one group. Make one commitment. Start one habit that requires you to engage. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be every day. But it needs to be something, because something is infinitely better than nothing. And if you're already doing well with this, if you're already staying engaged, I want you to protect that. Don't let your kids talk you into taking it easy. Don't let your own tiredness convince you to start canceling commitments. What you're doing is saving your independence, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. If this resonated with you, please share it. I think a lot of people our age are on the path toward nursing homes without realizing it, because nobody's told them that isolation and passivity are the real dangers. Maybe this could be the wake-up call someone needs. And please subscribe to this channel if you haven't. I'm here every week talking honestly about what it takes to age well, to maintain your dignity and independence, to stay engaged with life even as your body slows down. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, the nursing home isn't waiting for you at the end of some inevitable decline. It's waiting for the moment you stop engaging with the world. So don't give it that moment. Keep showing up. Keep mattering. Keep choosing difficulty over ease. Your independence depends on it.